Welcome into the Brant Partial Show. So yeah, let's talk Detroit Lions. So it's interesting. I was thinking about Jameson Williams. Like, he's been good. But what's interesting with Jameson Williams is, like, you give him the label good, and a lot of that's just indicative just because he's made a lot of big plays. And you think, well, duh, a guy that makes big plays should be labeled as good. But Jameson Williams just hasn't been very consistent, though, even though he's making big plays. Like, Jameson Williams is like if he was like an employee, he's one of those employees that probably misses a lot of days of work, maybe shows up late often, but he just is like a really good employee. I think Jameson Williams has been like that with the Lions. Like, look at Jameson Williams. Injuries, suspension, a lot of his career with the Lions, the start off, especially with the hype, the 12th overall pick in the draft. There's a lot of hype, and the start off was disappointment, injuries, but then there's been big plays, big play here, big play there, big play in a big time game against the 49ers. I know they lost that game, but he did come up with a big time play. Tampa Bay game too. The regular season matchup against Tampa Bay made a big play. So you get frustrated with Jameson Williams. It was a rocky start, and you can't say he's been consistent, but to say he's been good is a very fair statement just because of the big plays. But yeah, I like Jameson Williams. I was a little disappointed with the way he started his career, but he's a very talented wide receiver, good speed, and hopefully he makes some more plays for him next year. Another guy I forgot to touch on the Lions got Kevin Zeitler, too. Kevin Zeitler, been in the league a long time. Got to go back all the way to 2012 he was drafted. Interesting story if you look at Kevin Zeitler's NFL career. Projected to go later than the second round, ended up going to the end of the second round to the Bengals. Was with the Bengals, was with the Browns, was with the Ravens. So you talk about spending a entire career only primarily in the AFC North. So now is going to take a trip to the NFC North. But yeah, Kevin Zeitler, a veteran, talented player. And yeah, kind of the scouting report of him coming out of college was this guy's going to fit in a power run scheme. So that's what Zeitler can do. He can run block. So he's going to fit in. I think he's going to fit in nicely with Ragnow, Decker, Glasgow, Sewell, guys that are just legitimate run blockers. And you talk about the Detroit Lions, like everyone always throws out that term, a Dan Campbell fit. I think this is a Dan Campbell fit. And I think this is just kind of like, I guess what I kind of just said. This is a pick where this is adding another guy that's just a dominant run blocker in Zeitler. And then, man, I hope they play Antoine Green more this year. Remember Antoine Green, 7th round pick a couple years ago? Guy I liked. He was one of those guys that's just a true testament to the scouting that the Detroit Lions do. It's a guy that no one was really talking about, but if you look at, had a lot of ability, made some big plays, has the ability to stretch the field and create catches vertically. So it's all there for Antoine Green. It's just comes down to, does he get the opportunities? And when he gets the opportunities, does he make the most of them? Same with Donovan Peoples-Jones. Donovan Peoples-Jones needs to play better for him. But, I mean, the Lions, though, what's interesting with the Lions, like if their run game's so dominant, the offensive line's playing so well, honestly, Laporta, Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, there's enough, like actually just between those three guys, Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Sam Laporta, those guys are such impactful, can make such an impact that you don't necessarily need, like the Lions don't even necessarily need Khalif Raymond, Antoine Green, Donovan Peoples-Jones to be making plays. So that's the thing. I think if Antoine Green and Donovan Peoples-Jones are making big plays, I think it's just a huge added bonus, more so than it is. I think it's more of an added bonus as opposed to a need, if that makes sense. Like, do the Lions necessarily need Antoine Green and Donovan Peoples-Jones to make big plays? No, but yeah, that's, like I said, it's a bonus. Yeah, I kind of just like looking over at teams' depth charts. I mean, with the Lions, still got Emmanuel Mosley, Derek Barnes. I've touched on this before. Their second team depth chart is like as strong as any in football. John Kaminsky, Broderick Barton, Levi Onwuzurike, Josh Paschal. Like, if they were going to put this second team defense out there, I would be confident putting this second team defense against almost any NFL team. Maybe not some of the high end level offenses, but like, who's going to be like Carolina? If the Lions were going to play Carolina and they had to line up this second team defense against I would have some confidence against the Carolina offense with this second team defense. Still got Hendon Hooker, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Craig Reynolds, the running back core. I love the running back core. You talk about a mix of speed, power, toughness, tenaciousness. Sione Vaki too. Jamar Jefferson too. I think Jefferson may be a practice squad guy. I'm cool. I'm glad that Jamar Jefferson's hanging around. I wish he would get more opportunity, but it's just kind of one of those things. I mean, David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs healthy, Craig Reynolds, Sione Vaki. But yeah, I think it's a strong running back core in Detroit. Explosiveness and Jahmyr Gibbs, receiving ability. David Montgomery just so powerful. David Montgomery, I don't even just say this because he plays for the Lions. David Montgomery, you could make a case, is still the most underrated player in the NFL. It's interesting, before the Lions signed David Montgomery, Aiden Hutchinson was asked in an interview with Chris Sims and Mike Flora, who's the most underrated guy? Who's an underrated player in the NFL? And prior to the Lions signing David Montgomery, he said David Montgomery. David Montgomery's, I was talking about this with people. David Montgomery's just one of those guys he's just been under the radar his whole career. 3-star guy out of high school. Wasn't really recruited by a lot of big schools. Just goes to Iowa State, and I think he has I got to look this up before I say this. I think he holds the all-time rushing record at Iowa State. Let me look this up. Oh, no. Okay. That makes sense. Troy Davis, Breece Hall second. Okay. I thought he was higher. Okay, Montgomery's 7th all time. Alexander Madison. Quietly Iowa State's had some good running backs in recent years. Breece Hall, David Montgomery, Alexander Madison. I didn't even know that Alexander Madison played at Iowa State, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, Laporta going to be so big for Detroit this year. Laporta, where's Laporta going to be ranked among tight ends? Probably in the top. Is Sam Laporta the 3rd best tight end in football? I forget where Pro Football Focus ranked him. I always like to refer to them because I think they have pretty good rankings as far as ranking the NFL players. But yeah, I think Laporta is Sam Laporta is definitely a top 5 tight end. I don't know, top 3 maybe. But yeah, we'll see. Mekhi Wingo would be an interesting guy for the Lions. If it wasn't for that injury, Mekhi Wingo may have been a second-round pick. Mekhi Wingo is one of those guys where if you follow LSU football closely, you know the impact this guy made. Mekhi Wingo, one of those guys where he didn't really ever dominate, but he's a guy that if you watch games, he's making some plays. Maybe not huge impact, big highlight reel tackle for loss or sacks, but he's taking on double teams. He's getting off blocks. He's around the ball consistently. That's what Mekhi Winkle's going to bring. I think that's why the Lions took a chance on him. When I say took a chance, I think that's why the Lions drafted him, because they're thinking like 6th round. Sure, there's some injury concerns, but when this guy's on the field, he's gonna be pretty good. But yeah, I hope Onwuzurike can stay on the field. Onwuzurike, an interesting guy. I touched on this before in the Lions preview I did. If people remember with Onwuzurike, he's just been a guy like Jameson Williams, except no suspension. It's just been injuries. And there was was it a heart condition or something else? But yeah, it's been a tough road for Onwuzurike to get on the field. I think he made like a big tackle for loss or sack this past year. So that's what they're expecting, more of that. Because people forget Onwuzurike and McNeil were in that same draft class, that 2021 draft. I think the Lions took both of them. I know they took both of them in that 2021 NFL draft. I think they were both second rounders. Yep, because they took Penei Sewell first, Onwuzurike second, Aleem McNeil was their second round pick. Or actually, was McNeil a 3rd round? Did McNeil go 3rd round? Oh, I'm sorry. So Onwuzurike and McNeil did go back-to-back, but Onwuzurike went 2nd round, and they took McNeil 3rd round. I tell you what, that's a huge steal for the Lions, they got Aleem McNeil in the 3rd round. I've touched on this before. You talk about the demand of the defensive tackle position, how finding a good defensive tackle is a premium, and they get Aleem McNeil in the 3rd round. Yeah, Aleem McNeil just really developing into a star for the Detroit Lions. Then Jack Campbell's been good. I like Jack Campbell. I like that pick. It was one of those picks when they took Jack Campbell where I was like, people criticize. Jack Campbell was the. How should I say this best? Jack Campbell was the pick, and a lot of people touched on this. Jack Campbell was the pick where it's the epitome of why people shouldn't get attached to mock drafts. Because a lot of mock drafts of the Lions taking Jack Campbell, or a lot of mock drafts had teams taking Jack Campbell 2nd round, and then the Lions pull the trigger and take him 2nd round. Or the Lions pull the trigger and take him 1st round, excuse me. So by the logic, by all the people getting attached to mock drafts, people just immediately pencil it in, if you will, as a bad pick. But Jack Campbell is a very good football player. Jahmyr Gibbs is a very good football player. A lot of guys touch on this, even though there was the argument that Jahmyr Gibbs and Jack Campbell were stretches. The Lions drafted 2 really good football players, and it turned out like the Lions, like people said, why would you, if you're taking a running back 1st round, why would you not take Bijan Robinson? But it turns out the Lions may have gotten the best running back. Now, Bijan has a chance to redeem himself this year. He was hurt a little bit, but I think a lot of people would agree that Jahmyr Gibbs was the better pick between him and Bijan. But yeah, I mean, Lions have some depth in the defensive backfield. Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch. Brian Branch had a nice rookie season. We'll pull the depth chart back up. We'll actually go by. We'll look at the Brad Holmes draft. The draft so far. So by year. First year, Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, Penei Sewell, Levi Onwuzurike, Lee McNeil, Ifantu Melifonwu, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Derek Barnes, Jamar Jefferson. What do all these guys have in common? They're all still on the roster. Isn't that crazy? This is the draft. This was my favorite draft, and it's funny it just happened to be their first draft. This draft really set the tone. Sewell, Onwuzurike, Ali McNeil, Melifonwu, like, Penei Sewell, third best offensive tackle in football, arguably the second best. Trent Williams still holds the crown as the top offensive tackle, but Sewell has, at the very least, is the third best offensive tackle, arguably the second best offensive tackle. So you get him round 1. Onwuzurike round 2. Onwuzurike still on the roster. Talked about the issues he's had, but he has a chance to be good. They just need him to stay healthy. And then Ali McNeil, third round. Ali McNeil developing to one of the best defensive tackles. You get him in the third round. Melifonwu in the third round. Melifonwu, is he a corner? Is he a safety? All I know is he's made some plays for him. They got him in the third round. Amon-Ra St. Brown in the fourth. All Amon-Ra St. Brown has done is become a superstar in the NFL and really take off towards the second half of the 2021 season. And then Derek Barnes. Derek Barnes looked good early, kind of was benched, but then he made a play in the playoff, had the interception in the playoffs, and then Jamar Jefferson hasn't got a lot of opportunity, but he's hung around. And Jamar Jefferson, a talented guy. And they got in the 7th round. So Penei Sewell, Onwuzurike, Ali McNeil, Ifantu Melifonwu, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Derek Barnes, Jamar Jefferson. That's their first draft class. That is a tremendous draft class. That's what people talk about with Brad Holmes, why he's so awesome. The guy just doesn't miss on draft picks. Brad Holmes does not miss on draft picks. Here's the thing. You can argue he missed on Onwuzurike. You can argue that he missed on that pick. So that's the thing. You want to talk about you want to talk about glass half full, glass half empty? You could say, I guess that's maybe not the best analogy, but if you're a really pessimistic person, you could look at this draft class and be like, Brad Holmes, if you're really being critical, like if you're really trying to critique Brad Holmes, and be like, well, he missed on the second round pick in his very first draft. But that doesn't put into context. Knocks the first round pick out of the park, knocks the third round pick out of the park, hits on the third round. The other guy in the third round, Melifonwu on the roster, made some plays, and then Amon-Ra in the fourth, knocked that out of the park. Derek Barnes, a guy that's been on the roster and made a play. So, and then if you want to continue with the pessimistic theme, missed on Jamar Jefferson, but so. Even if you want to argue he's missed on Onwuzurike and Jefferson in the first draft, the other, how many is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The other 5 picks of the 7 he knocked out of the park. So you could make the argument that Brad Holmes has missed on some picks, but who hasn't missed on NFL draft? Who hasn't missed on picks? Here's the second-year draft for the Detroit Lions. Aiden Hutchinson, Jameson Williams, Josh Paschal, Kirby Joseph, James Mitchell, Malcolm Rodriguez, James Houston. Really good draft. You wish James Mitchell would get some more opportunities. I'm not really sure what's going on there. I know Laporta has become a superstar, but James Mitchell, he shows some ability. I know they got Brock Wright too, Shane Zylstra. They got some depth at tight end. Quietly, the Lions have a pretty strong tight end core. And then Josh Paschal. I wish he's been a little bit better, but he's a pretty good player nonetheless. Kirby Joseph made a lot of plays. Malcolm Rodriguez, not playing as much, but Rodriguez has showed flashes. James Houston just got to keep him healthy. But the bottom line with James Houston, the guy can rush the passer. I think with James Houston, he's a guy that when they took him 6th round, you're like, this guy may not be a huge contributor, but you found out the guy can rush the passer. And that's can you rush the passer? That's like the bottom line in the NFL, because the NFL has become such a pass-happy league that even if James Houston never develops into even a good run stopper, the fact that this guy isn't just a solid pass rusher, but a good edge rusher when healthy, so critical. Just got to keep him on the field. And then 2023 NFL draft. Last year's draft class was interesting for Brad Holmes. This 2023 class may have been I keep saying interesting, but this was the most interesting. This was like you talk about the expression, have the last laugh. This was the ultimate example of Brad Holmes getting the last laugh. Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell, picks that were questioned. Picks that certainly were questioned. Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell have been really good. Jahmyr Gibbs, really good. Sam Laporta in the 2nd round would be like, well, Sam Laporta wasn't even the best tight end. Turns out he's the best tight end in that draft class. Brian Branch in the 2nd. Brian Branch turned into a star. Some people didn't have Brian Branch safety 1. I had him as the best safety in the draft. They got the best safety in the draft in the 2nd round, and Brian Branch shows out in the 1st year. And then Hendon Hooker in the 3rd. That's one of those picks, I guess time will tell. Then Broderick Martin still on the roster. Kobe Sorsdale played a little bit this year. And then Antoine Green, a lot of that's to be determined, but he was a 7th round pick. So, I mean, you can't really discredit that pick too much. But Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell, Sam Laporta. The first 3 picks, outstanding. Jahmyr Gibbs, Campbell, Sam Laporta. First 4 picks, outstanding. Gibbs, Campbell, Laporta, Branch. Broderick Martin needs to show more, but Broderick Martin, I think, has a lot of ability. And then this year, Terrion Arnold, Ennis Rakestraw, Giovanni Manu, Sione Vaki, Mekhi Wingo, Christian Mahogany. A lot of people didn't really give the Lions a ton of credit for this class. This could be another one this could be similar to the 2023 class, where Brad Holmes really does get the last laugh. So for Terrion Arnold, for example, some people didn't think Terrion Arnold was the best corner in the class, but he may show people that he is. And then with Ennis Rakestraw, a guy that just did not get a lot of hype for some reason, but a really good football player. And then Giovanni Bernou, guy's dominant. Guy was dominant at the British Columbia level. It wasn't the best level of football, but if you can bully grown men at whatever level, not even just football, if you can physically abuse grown men, that usually, even if he doesn't do that at the NFL level, that must mean they can work. They can probably work with him a little bit. Sione Vaki too. Sione Vaki, just a tremendous football player. Whether he's a safety, running back, whether he sells drinks at the concession stand, Vaki just a really good player. Mekhi Wingo too, touched on Mekhi Wingo's ability. Christian Mahogany. Mahogany was interesting. I told people this going into the season, way before the season starts. I like to look at guys in college and scout them. Mahogany was a guy I had high up on my list, slipped in the draft because of injuries. I'm like, the Lions got him 6th round, though. That's crazy. This was a guy that if there was no injuries, probably legitimately could have gone end of 1st round, 2nd round. It's just an injury thing. But Mahogany, a talented guy with size, run blocking ability. So, yeah, this is a class where I think especially experts would look at it. You go Terrion Arnold, well, he might be the best corner, didn't run a slow 40 time. Like if you're being really pessimistic, and then Ennis Rakestraw. Well, Rakestraw, is he a safety? Is he a corner? Where's he going to play? He's kind of an in-betweener. And then Giovanni Bernu, what competition did he play? Sione Vaki, well, he wasn't necessarily dominant, good all-around player, but maybe not an elite safety or a running back. Then Makai Wingo, injury concerns. Mahogany, injury concerns. So it's interesting. There's questions with all these guys, questions for different reasons, except arguably Terrion Arnold, those are just kind of slight. Those questions, I guess, aren't really relevant because most people did have him as a top corner. Some people didn't. But other than Terrion Arnold, all these picks had some questions, maybe not major question marks, but all of them had questions. So if all these questions can clear up, like with Rakestraw, like say they play Rakestraw at corner, the question is, some people saw him more as a safety, so a lot of people question his ability to play pure cover corner. If he plays good at pure cover corner, he answers that question. Giovanni Manu, the talent concern. If Manu plays well, then people understand that the talent, that the transition to the NFL is not a problem. Then Sione Vaki, if he plays well, then if he plays well at running back, if that's where they choose to play him, then people will be like, well, he could have been a safety too. Turns out he is a really good running back. So a lot of these guys have a chance to answer some of the questions about him. Yeah, the Lions still got Brock Wright too. Brock Wright's made some plays. Brandon Joseph, too. Brandon Joseph, I think they acquired in free agency. Joseph, once upon a time, prior to the 2022 season, was seen as the top safety in the nation. Chose to transfer to I forget, it didn't have his best year at Notre Dame and then didn't have his best year at Northwestern and then transferred to Notre Dame. I think was like an undrafted free agent. I forget where he was playing before Detroit, but now he's in Detroit. But a guy that's got some ability. Still got Victor Kildor. A lot of the Lions' success so indicative of the cornerback position. They need Terrion Arnold to be good. Hopefully Terrion Arnold is a good player. That would be disappointing. Like we're touching on all the draft picks Brad Holmes has hit on. If he misses on missing on Terrion Arnold would be a disappointment. So they need Terrion Arnold to play well. But yeah, I'm gonna wrap with that. Thanks for tuning in to the Brant Marshall Show. Stay tuned for more episodes and clips. Till next time, peace.